Right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another curious event. As usual, I'd like to introduce you to Professor Benny Anderson, our CEO, who will kick off by, getting us thinking about issues. Last time he spoke about crisis. I don't know. I'm also curious to know what he's going to talk about this time.
Okay, so I would want to know whom of you have thought about the fifth industrial revolution? Daniel? Not quite. Okay, so let's just think a bit about it. And for those of you who want to infuse this idea with colleagues that are more important than maybe some of us sitting here, let's just do a quick scope or revisit of revolutions. So we had the first one, which, if I recall correctly, is all about the steam engines, 1870s, somewhere. And then we had the second one, which was quite a big crisis, which was the combustion engine, oil, electricity, and steel. All of that was in that mix. That was the second one. And then we had the third one from the 80s, which was the whole digital thing around the internet and the craziness of a personal computer. And then people start talking of late about the fourth industrial revolution. And in my mind, it talks to what we've spoken here many a times, what we can define as the megatrends of artificial intelligence and virtual reality and augmented reality and robotics and screenification and intermediation, all that cluster of megatrends. But if you look at all of these revolutions, it seemed to me that they became more inhumane. That the human factor has been dehumanized if you look at all of those industrial revolutions. Any comment? Rita? That's the benefit of sitting close. So all of those revolutions seem to have dehumanized the progress that we made. And if I mean dehumanized, I mean it specifically in economic terms. So we made more money, we became more rich, we are fancy, we wear fancy shoes and fancy jewelry and fancy cars and whatever. But the economy have become more dehumanized. Any comments? Theo, you've been an executive in banking. Talk to us.
It is as if we take the human further and further away.
Yeah.
You get that feeling, definitely. But we can't lose sight of the human in this place.
Well, that's interesting. So why for almost more than 100 years have we seemed to lose sight of the humans? Elias?
Probably you're looking at the human factors of it, where maybe there's been a lot of mistrust and more trust into the machines and into the technology. So basically, more safety, the mindset.
So it is therefore possible, if we stretch your argument, that we will become even more so less human. The economy will become more dehumanized. Does that excite you, Franza?
No, it does not excite me if everything becomes more dehumanized. Yes, it becomes more dehumanized because humans make errors. And we don't want humans to make errors, so we replace them with machines and technology.
But isn't it scary? So the humans decide. We don't want humans to do something. And then we impose something unhuman on the humans.
So are we doubting the ability of humans?
Yes, of being human.
Yeah. So even if you introduce all the technology, humans have to be techno-literate.
Yes.
Are we really of the view that we've got other better things to do? So the things that we don't want to do, we give to machines.
Okay, so your argument therefore is let's dehumanize it further.
No, we've got many things to do. as opposed to the first industrial
Yeah.
revolution. Now the world has become complex. So we have to divide the workload. We take that machines can do, and we can do better because you program them to do it.
Yes.
And then we find other things to do. So we're not saying we're taking jobs from women, so but
Okay, I'm not worried about taking jobs, so I agree. So the robots will do much more and much better. But does that theoretically make the economy more dehumane? Because there will be more things making money than people making money.
things belongs to people. So people.
All right?
Yes, Sandra?
Through the things who are not human.
I think
Sandra?
people become less human because the technology replaces some of those interactions and those normal interfaces and the way that people show emotions and develop and what have you. So, in becoming so connected by the technology, emotionally and personally and behaviorally, they drift apart.
Okay, I want
And
to challenge
that
you.
could also influence
Yeah, I wanna
business models.
Challenge you on that one personally. I'm really in love with my WhatsApp. I've got wonderful relationships on my WhatsApp. There are even emojis, and I can express myself. I'm engaging with many people. Well, I feel quite warm when I see the smile in the photograph, and they give me a voicemail and such. So
All the hearts.
I always want to go to where Tabo is going. Is I'm not worried about technology, but what I just want to ask: are we going to go on with this trend of how the economic drivers are going to be? Sorry, you had your hand.
Yeah, look, I think
Hello.
if I have to pick up to say that economy serves human beings, and then human beings program machines to do the job or whatever, will that be faster or slower? I don't know. And also, I was, my daughter, she's in matric, and then I was helping her and all that to make selections and all that. In fact, she has to make her own choices. However, what we picked up that people will be more needed in terms of to inspire, motivate those who will be able to have capability to do that in the fourth industrial revolution.
Okay. So you spot the idea that you're worried about the dehumanizing and the long-term effects that it may have. We can have all these wonderful machines doing great things, but you are worried about the human thing. So I don't want to spend too much time, but there's somebody who made a comment of reason and said, there's a possibility that in the fourth industrial revolution, we will see the eclipse of the service of humanity through the momentum of technology and commerce. Any comment on that? Bru? Malabu? Any comment on that? The eclipse of the service of humanity because of the momentum of technology and commerce.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yep.
In our business, we've applied robotics. And maybe it's just a view. We've got a number of youngsters working for us. Our robot has a name. We refer to all the projects that we've done with him as we've loganized him.
So it's a man.
So he's a man, an IQ bot, may I say, is a woman. She's Rachel. She's much more cleverer than me. Yes, unstructured stuff. But it is amazing to see if you take the mundane out of your job, the dull stuff of moving one piece of paper to another place to capture this, to capture that. If you take all of that mundane out, the creativity that comes into the business and the other things that you can do. Our business only has 50 odd employees. We have not fired, we have not retrenched a single one of them. We now sell robotics as a service because all of a sudden we have capacity.
Beautiful.
So it's just how you apply.
So you're saying your company, your space will not allow the dehumanization continuing, you'll actually bring a human factor into that.
Because if you do that, you won't reap the benefits.
Great.
You will just have a show.
Okay. Brian?
Yeah. Then, with respect, I disagree with your basic.
I love that idea.
I don't believe that one can blame an external, exogenous factor causing humanity to be dehumanized. The essence of economic development from the first industrial revolution to the present, all economic growth has given humans greater choice. And the essence remains then, what do we do with those choices? And if it's not something else that is causing dehumanization, it is our inability to make correct choices that is causing certain individuals to be dehumanized, but others, as you mentioned, have actually used the benefits of the fourth industrial revolution to give them greater choices to do positive things.
We can have a long debate around that. I will really want you to convince me that people are not working longer hours and are not less human of nature over the last 100 years, spending time away from their families, becoming like robots, becoming like machines, responding to for profit as opposed to for meaning. So we can have a debate on that, and we can see how that works. But I want to ask the question, if we had to vote today, are we in a system for profit or for benefit? Where are you working? Charlene? Are you working for profit or for benefit? Oh, so how do you manage? So I'll take you on that one. So take me. So how do you manage to balance that?
It's with great difficulty.
But I want to see it in facts. So tell me, where's the for profit and where's the for benefit?
Obviously, we as
just say again, who are we?
I'm from Transnet.
Transnet.
Yeah.
For profit and for benefit.
It's obvious who's benefited.
For profit is the benefit. But just from
I think it was started for profit and benefit.
Just I'm going to try and explain why I say
That's
for
good.
profit
Yeah.
and for benefit. Guys, see, there's a room full of intellectual minds here, so I'm just going to keep it simple. Because I'm not at that level, I think. But in essence, I don't know if you know our business model, but we have to fund our own investments and things like that. So obviously there's a profit motive. In terms of benefit, we are SOE and we have to contribute to national objectives. Meaning that we have to create jobs as much as we can, we have to foster jobs. We have to make differences in society through our CI programs and things like that. So for profit and for benefit, for the greater society profit, more for us to be self-sustaining and sustainable going forward. That's where I
Okay. So it's the for profit, for benefit. I don't want to. For profit, for benefit.
For profit.
Okay. Samke, you working in a for profit or for benefit work environment? For benefit. Yes, Daniel?
For benefit.
For benefit. Ria? For profit, for benefit.
It's a very difficult question.
Why is it a public secret?
Well, I think it ought to be both.
Are you listed on the JC?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's the possibility? I know I'm teasing you. But I would like ourselves just to think, we speak easily fourth industrial revolution, there's many dimensions to it. But I'm getting more intrigued of late with the notion of the fifth industrial revolution. Because there's comments, somebody made a note the other day on a social blog and said, when humans and machines will dance together, when will that happen? Because is it happening already, James? Where humans and machines dance together.
So I actually see closer to machines because they're serving our purpose in a much ever-increasing
In a much humane way.
I think the fifth, if you had to ask me just off the top of my head, I think that the fifth industrial revolution is where the merging of man and machine is actually
Okay, so it's not happening yet.
no, but it's
So there's a paradox in your argument now.
it's not happening yet, but because we say the fifth industrial revolution is with us, but the fourth industrial revolution, as we know it, in my opinion, is bringing us closer to machines.
Okay, but I think as the
closer tool to what
yeah, I think as it was set out for the fourth industrial revolution, there is not reference to the role of humans to the extent that people are now starting to articulate it as what will become the fifth industrial revolution. So some people are already saying it's not if, the fifth
It's
industrial
already on.
revolution is already started.
they say the fourth industrial revolution has been with us for a long
Quite some time.
already, yeah.
The fact that the message came late here is another story. So in the fifth industrial revolution, just a last comment, if we can get almost a move from solely for profit to solely for benefit. Now that sounds very extreme. I don't know whether a bank would have made money. But if you think of the DaVinci frame, that we want to believe in the notion of a cooperative engagement, appreciating that sometimes there's coordinated spaces. But if we could in the main become a more cooperative space, a network of knowledge workers, you will be able, maybe more likely, to create a for benefit society. So I was very pleased when I came along, when I started seeing these things being published, that there are people who are talking about a for benefit society, as opposed to what is currently still very much a for profit society. Thanks.
Yeah, I think just to perhaps round this up is that the whole thing of high tech, high touch. I think over time, when the first, let's say the ATM was introduced, people were very wary and skeptical. Some people still wanted to go and stand in the bank queues, irrespective of the fact that there was efficiencies and those kind of things there. So as long as you have the human element, there's always going to be the thing that, the trust factor in machines. So there will be need for the touch, and how high the touch is going to be, it all depends. So I think we need to embrace that and ensure that there is this what you call critical balance between the high tech and the high touch. Then we don't lose the humanity in this whole thing. I think that's what we need to. Right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ben. Any other inputs? Any other comments before we?
If I may.
Yeah. Sure.
Just something that when he started, he said, you're going to start making us think. And I was wondering, if we talk for benefit and we talk for profit, I understand the concept of commercial and business and stuff. But if you look at South Africa and we talk economics, and social economics and all this kind of things, how much has all this industrial revolution, divorced or excluded? Because if you talk we and being exposed and being in the face of robotics in the first industrial revolution, we are a small part of what the benefit focus should be. So when you talk fifth industrial revolution, potentially 6 or 7, for me it would be going back to basics. And I would like to agree with the gentleman there that we have to begin to bring the two together, but more of the human, get more inclusive, participation or exposure. Because it's no use just we going forward.
I think that's very true, and if you look at the readings on the fifth industrial revolution, there's actually publications on that already. They say the feminists love this idea, which I find interesting. They say if the fifth industrial revolution is going to be determined by women and children.
Interesting. Maybe we can kick off the next Curiosity with that.
Yeah, about this question, who are the drivers of the fourth industrial revolution? Because it seems even the government officials, they are wanting, everyone, they are not sure what to do.
No, the thing is, I think we've come very late to the party. We've been moving on to the fifth industrial revolution. It's only the last 5 years people are using the buzzword 4IR. Even universities and intellectual hubs have made a big issue out of it. There's one particular university in Hightech that everything is now 4IR. Where by the time they get ready to embrace this thing, we'll be already in 5IR. Understand?
Because I'm asking this question because the people who are leading us, they are not sure. So that's why I'm saying, who are they?
Well, I think historically the revolutions were driven by power. So the people who had access to power, both in terms of political and financial power, economic power, those were driven, those were the drivers. I think what the fifth industrial revolution says, well, it should be all-inclusive. Whereas the revolutions until now was partially inclusive.
So but in our country, let's take South Africa as an example.
Well, I think in our country the government is doing a very great job to market for IR.
What I'm saying is because the president he mentioned that he's not even sure whether we're in the second or the third. So, but now we're talking about the
Yeah,
That's why I'm saying.
I would prefer not to take the Deputy President into this discussion.
Yeah, no.
He was saying that he's not even sure the countries whether we're in the second one or the third one. But now here we're talking about the fourth and the fifth one.
So what do you think will he and I talk about at the fire?
So that's why I was asking that who are the drivers, because the drivers, we don't know what they're talking about. So
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Make a valid point. I don't think we want to verge into that territory, and it's a very sensitive territory. But we all know. I mean, I think we need to take ownership. We are the intellectual minds here. You know, we need to embrace. We need to move. We need to make the right decision. I think as leaders of organizations and whatever, we need to start moving here and say this is what we can't wait for government and state to make the difference.
You mentioned, I think, that perhaps the feminist movement is very interesting. Susskind and Susskind, the guy from Harvard's philosophy. There is a publication basically just in the future professions, and they indicate quite a lot of trend in terms of what you're saying, where women are breaking out of the preconceived ideas and making a difference. I'm just saying, there's a Ernst & Young who got a publication called Women of Africa, and they said that the potential of women in Africa is bigger than India and China. And again, it's very interesting to see geographics, but also what women are doing from artificial intelligence, and really taking us, rather than having a dualistic either and, they're rather saying, instead of looking at the future or the past, it's both and rather than either or.
Yeah, it's not either or.
A lot of different thinking that's emerging on this.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
I think when people talk about the fourth industrial revolution, you almost think, most people are saying, well, it's sort of like a single linear process, but to me it's a continuum. It's a multitude of processes and activities and technologies, and interconnectedness is just becoming more and more pervasive. So to say who's the drivers, it's many drivers, it's many technologies, it's many aspects that are changing our activities and our interactions.
But I think, James, if you look at all the revolutions, I think that's exactly what didn't happen. It was not a systemic process. It was linear. Power and commerce took charge of it, and they drove an agenda. But it was not inclusive. I think hence the comment why some of the writers are saying it had a strong sense of being dehumanizing people, because it was about the benefit for a few and not for all. They got more and more people involved. When we started factories, we can get 1,000 people working, but they earned a pittance.
But if you have to take, most people here, I would assume, have got a smartphone. By the fact that they're using the various apps on the smartphone, they're already 4IR connected, because they're accessing that information, that data, that.
But I think they are users of, they are not creators of.
So that's the difference between
so they made it
versus.
But they made it accessible for me to have this app.
Yeah.
But I'm not creating anything.
But is that not the role of an entrepreneur versus society?
Indeed. If we get it, I'm just saying it seems that people are not embracing these revolutions. It becomes a power from different sides, and hence the reason why people are hoping that maybe in the fifth industrial revolution, it will now become more about the people.
And the benefit rather than the profit, of course.
Let's take a last comment there. John?
It's according to me, it allows human to have time to think. Because if you are doing something like physically, you tend to stop thinking. So if you can have a machine that does that, you'll have enough time to start to think. The more you think,
and
the more
reflect.
you create. So for me, I see all of this fourth industrial, from cars, from all of it, has allowed humans needs to start to think and to be more creative. Who have even thought that we have a car that you sold, for instance, because of people are starting to think and they are becoming more creative.
Yeah, and it allows more space for that humanness. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Krishna.
All right, thank you very much.